What's up, you sweaty nerds and greasy degenerates? Jingliu releases in less than a week now, so I thought we should go ahead and talk about what Jingliu's gonna do to the game. And I'm not talking about how she's gonna make everybody cream their pants. I'm talking about how she's going to affect the meta. How strong of a character is she actually going to be? Will she be better than Dan Hung and Bibiter Lune? Let's go ahead and talk about it. So there seems to be a bit of a trend with the new 5-star premium characters that come out in Honkai Star Rail that are DPS characters. It seems like every new DPS character that comes out seems to get a small uptick in power level than the last one. And this has been going on since Jingliu on. So many months now have gone by and it just seems to be like power creep, power creep, power creep. Now it hasn't been that bad. It's just a little bit more powerful than the last, and that's not a big deal. But when Dan Hung and Bibiter Lune came out, it seemed like a little bit of a bigger jump than normal. And with Jingliu coming out in less than a week, it seems like we might finally break this trend, but we're not sure yet. What I mean by that is people on the CN network have been running a lot of tests, and it seems like Jingliu could outpower Dan Hung and Bibiter Lune, but she might be roughly the same. She might be slightly worse. It's really hard to tell as of right now. And what that basically means is if you just need a really solid DPS character in this game, Jingliu is going to be the best thing you can get your hands on for a really, really long time. Yes, Dan Hung and Bibiter Lune will get a rerun, but that's not going to be for a long time. And we're not seeing anything that's going to be new for a little while. So for at least a couple of months, you're not going to be able to get a solid DPS character as good as Jingliu. She will simply be the best thing you can get for a long time. And it's possible, depending on team compositions, she might even be the best DPS in the whole game. It's just way too early to say. The race is too tight right now. We need to wait till she actually comes out. And even then, I have a feeling they're going to be on such a even playing field in terms of their overall power level that, honestly, we might finally have tier lists that might differ from each other. Like you might see the CN network say, oh, Jingliu's, more powerful than Dan Hung ever so slightly. You might see people on the EU or NA say, you know what, Dan Hung and Bibiter Lune is slightly better. So we might finally have a moment like that where two characters are so evenly matched that it's really going to be team composition and relic dependent upon whether they're actually better on a certain account or not. Meaning, every player will be able to be more optimal with one than the other. That's how close they will potentially be in terms of their actual power level. Rather than one be so definitively better than the other, it's actually more on, can you play them that optimally? And we're talking about real sweaty talk right now, by the way, okay? Jingliu is going to be great. We don't need to worry about whether she's going to be good or not. She is going to be great. It's just, a lot of us are curious whether she'll be the best or not. It's fun to kind of theory craft. It's fun to work around our teams and team composition. It's what the game is. It's a turn-based strategy game. We love to do this. We love to strategize. We love to pre-plan. We love to build. This is what we do. We're gamers. We're degenerate, sweaty, greasy nerds. This is what we do. And so with Jingliu, it seems like we're going to have a fun little debate as a community when she comes out, before she comes out, after she comes out. It's going to be a long time and people will probably still be talking about who's better for months, Jingliu or Dan Hung and Bibiter Lune. And I think that's a really good thing for the game. I think that having a little bit of balance is something that we really need. Otherwise, this whole power creep thing, where every single new character that comes out is better than the last, that's going to get old. That's going to get boring. People have already started leaving the game because of this type of stuff. There's people I used to talk to in the comments and people I used to talk to sometimes in streams and stuff. They've already left the game because they got tired of little tiny power creep moments like, you know, Jingliu on all the way to Dan. Like, we had every single new DPS that came out was slightly better than the last, and it literally just caused people to want to leave the game. That's their problem, right? Because they didn't have the patience to wait for Jingliu, and Jingliu's about to come out, and she's hot as hell. Anyways, Jingliu deals a small amount of damage to the entire team, like the team-wide drain, in order to deal increased damage. It's like a small risk, big reward type of playstyle I think a lot of people are gonna like. It's like playing a bleed build in Elden Ring, small amount of damage to yourself, ton of damage to the enemies. People are gonna love it, right? And this was actually nerfed at one point. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but the joke used to be that only Locha players could play Jingliu because the team drain was too much. But that's been changed, and now anybody can play Jingliu. Even you Natasha players out there. Anybody can play Jingliu, even brand new players to the game. But getting back to the Jingliu and Dan Heng and Bibiter Lune comparisons, it's actually kind of funny because not only do they both sit at the number 1 and number 2 slots for best DPS characters in the game, but they're also like kind of built similarly in certain ways. And what I mean by that is, for example, they both deal blast damage, which means that they hit 3 enemies at once most of the time that they attack. They both have something very small holding them back, but we can easily build around it when building the characters. Like Dan Heng, for example, is SP hungry and wants to get to his ultimate really quick so that he can work properly. Jingliu, for example, needs to be in her buffed state for her to deal proper damage, or she doesn't work quite as well otherwise, and she also wants to get to her ultimate really fast so that she works properly, and the entire team need to be built around them. It's a hyper carry team in both cases, so everything on the team needs to be built around just that main DPS, there where most of your damage comes from. In fact, the damage off the other characters is negligible. It's not even important. Everything comes from them. They're the power source. They're the lifeblood of those teams. And it's totally fine because they deal actually that much damage in comparison to every other character in the entire game, including Sela. So it's kind of wild, and unfortunately we can't definitively say right now who's better, Dan Heng or Jingliu. Like I said, the CN network has been running a lot of different tests, but it's not definitive. Some people will say Jingliu's better, some people will say Dan's better. It really is more account dependent. What teams do you have? What characters do you have to build around them? Do you have a Ting Yun so that you can buff Jingliu while also giving her ultimate a lot quicker, right? Do you have someone like Pela on your team that works really well with Jingliu, debuffs the enemies, also can potentially freeze the enemies? They both help each other with that freeze, you know what I mean? Do you have those type of characters on your team? Do you have a character like Fu Xuan who can actually solo sustain while also giving crit value to Jingliu? You don't need to have Fu Xuan, you can totally just use Natasha, but like I said, it's more account dependent. Like, if you really care about who's better than the other, it's more account dependent than mattering on who's better in a solo environment. Because if you don't have the right team, it doesn't matter who's better because you're not going to be playing them optimally anyway, okay? So just something to think about there. Jingliu, in my opinion, is going to be the best DPS character in the game, because even if she's only sitting at number 2 in terms of overall power level, she's way hotter. So, hammer down, boom, that's it. Jingliu's the best. You heard it here first. Actually, you heard it everywhere else first too. Jingliu's just hot. She's also like the best DPS character in the game, probably. Maybe the second best. Doesn't really matter, right? At this point, she's super hot. You're pulling for her, I'm pulling for her, everybody's pulling for her? Okay, good. Meeting adjourned. Anyways, if you guys liked this video, if you thought it was entertaining in any way, shape, or form, please leave a like and subscribe. If you hated it, you hate my guts, you think I smell weird, please leave a hate thread in the comments so I can tell you how much more Jingliu likes me than she likes you. Anyways, I'll catch you next time. Peace out.